Clayton County Board of Education Budget Public Hearing. I call to order this meeting on Monday, May 6th, at 11 a.m. The way in which this is going to work is we'll see a presentation by our finance department. We then will open up the floor for public participation, and then we will adjourn the meeting. Ms. Bivens, the platform is all yours. Is your clicker? Do you have the clicker? No. Huh? Thank you, sir. Gotcha. Before starting, Ms. Bivens, I just want to let the public know that a quorum is not necessary to conduct this public hearing. So if you see a lack of school board participants, it's because we could move forward and have this meeting without that quorum. Ms. Bivens, the platform is all yours.
Technology is good when it works. Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, Superintendent Dr. Smith, colleagues, and community. This is the first of two required public hearings on the tentative approved budget. It's not working. Oh, there it is. It's working now. Okay. All right. So this budget addresses the 5 priorities of our superintendent, Dr. Smith. I'm not going to read them to you. They're there for you to read, and everyone should also have a copy of the presentation. It's been made available at the back for the public and also for each of the board members. Next slide. Thank you, Kim. The school district operates through 5 funds. We have a general operating fund, which is our largest fund, special revenue fund, which is where most of our federal grants are accounted for, our capital projects funds, this is where we account for all of our building projects, any construction projects, any capital needs for the district. We have an enterprise fund. This is where we account for the operation and maintenance of facilities and services that are supported by user charges, and our debt service fund, which is where we pay for any principal or interest for any bonds that we may have issued. The general fund, as I stated, is our largest fund, and in that, most of the funds are used for our salaries and benefits, for our teachers, counselors, media specialists, administrators, bus drivers, support staff. And then the remaining funds are used for textbooks, utility supplies, fuel for transportation services, and any other operating expenses. Next slide, please. You can go to the one more. Thank you. Okay, so this slide shows our FY26 proposed budget with our property taxes for tax year 2025, which supports our 2026 budget. And as you can see, our property values, our digest increased by about 2% overall. So last year generated about 236 million in property taxes. This year is projected at 253, but with a collection rate of 99%, we use 251 as our tax revenue. Again, this is based on our preliminary digest that we received on April 17th from the Tax Commissioner's office, and we should receive another one as they continue to receive tax returns in the final sometime in late July or August, I'm sorry. So when we're looking at our millage rate, which we're proposing to maintain at 19.6, just like to call to the public and our board's attention how our property values compare to other districts. A lot of times we're asked, well, why can't we do some of the things that some of the other districts in our metro Atlanta area are doing? For instance, Atlanta, who's closest in size to us in enrollment, they have a millage rate of 20.5, and ours again is at 19.6. If you look at the net digest, though, their digest property values is at $48.5 billion compared to 12.6 for Clayton County. So the value of what 1 mil generates in property tax is $48.5 million compared to Clayton, it's only $12.6 million. So they are already generating about over $30 million more than we are, which is why they can afford to do some of those things that they do. Next slide, Kim. This slide shows, again, the millage rate, a history of our millage rates. You can see we have been as high as 20 mills. We dropped down for a few years in 2017, and it went back up for a few years. And about 3 years ago, we reduced it to 19.6, and we're recommending maintaining it at that level. Some of the things, new items in this budget include an increase in the employer contribution to TRS from 20.78 to 21.91%. And also classified health insurance, the employer portion contribution increasing from $3,390 a month. Well, it's increasing to that amount in the annual is $20,040 per year per employee, and that's about $11.9 million that the county or the district will have to pay for those classified employees, as we don't receive any reimbursement from the state for them. We do receive it for all of our certified staff, though. And also, the TRS employer contribution increase is going to cost the district about $4.1 million for the classified employees. The state only pays for about 60 to 68% of our certified staff, which are our teachers. So we will have to pay for those that are unfunded by the state as well as the classified. And again, that's $4.1 million. Also included in this is $1.4 million for Student Employment Services Division. Next slide, please. So the FY26 proposed budget for the general fund, we have a projected beginning fund balance of $160 million with projected revenues of $728,750,901, projected expenditures of $741,794, and that shows my revenues under expenditures about $12.2 million, which would leave us with the projected ending fund balance of June 30th of 2026 of $147,750,107. Next slide, Kim. Thank you. So on the revenue side, these are the items that make up our revenue, projected revenue, the $728 million. Of that, 36% is coming from property taxes, 2.3% from other local sources, 57.9% is from our state funding, and we receive 0.1% from federal funds, and then 3.1% is from other local grants, which are mostly state grants. And this slide is just a picture of the stats that the information that I just provided. Next slide. So when it comes to the expenditure side, the $741 million, this slide shows how the funds are being spent. Our core business is education, which is instruction, and as you can see on this slide, 59.6% of that $741 million is being spent on direct instruction, with 9.6% on operations and maintenance of plant, and 5.5% in people services. And then you can see the other percentages in the different categories by function that we have. You can go to the next slide. Okay. So how that breaks down by objects, remember earlier I said over 80% of our budget is spent in salaries and benefits. So 57% of that $740 million is going for salaries for all of our employees, with 28.3% of it for benefits. And then the remainder of it is going to our various operational areas in the district, with 5.4% for supplies, and then 2.7% for professional services. You can go to the next slide, please. There we go. Thank you. So when the board approves the budget, we have to do approve the budget for all funds. So this slide shows the other remaining 4 funds, which is Special Revenue Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Debt Service, and Enterprise Funds. And as you can see, our total funds available for special revenues at $31 million. Capital projects is $647 million. And that is mainly because if you look at the other financing sources, they're at $567 million. Last year, the board, we issued a bond. So we had those net proceeds from that, along with the bond that we will be asking the board to approve, that was approved by the voters, of $495 million. So the other financing sources will be those funds from the bond proceeds. And then also we get $70 million projected for our SPLOST tax revenue. So that's why that number is higher than it normally is because we have the extra funds available. In our debt service fund, because we do already have some debt, we have $35.9 million budgeted there for the principal and interest that will be paid next year. And that actually comes from the capital projects funds, the transfer out, which is shown as an expenditure on the other side. And then from the enterprise fund, we have $47 million projected on revenue, with the majority of that coming from federal funding, which is for the school nutrition program. And the remaining funds will come from the revenue generated from the Performing Arts Center, Campus Kids, which is our before and after school program, as well as print services for the services that they provide. And this again shows by function, so we can break these down even with the other funds on how we're spending the money in instruction, people services, in those various areas. So we provide that information as well. Can go to the next slide. And at the bottom, you see our total special revenue expenditures is $31 million. Capital projects is $647. And if you look next to the bottom line in that capital projects funds, that's where you see the transfer to other funds for that debt service payment that's showing as an expense on the debt service side. Next slide. So in total, the proposed budget for all funds, as you can see, we're projecting a beginning fund balance of $160 million for the general fund, ending next year at $147,750, and enterprise funds has a $2 million fund balance and projected to end at $54,521 next year. All right, this chart shows a 5-year general fund revenue expenditure projection. Starting with this year, those numbers are what we projected in the budget. And we use a 3% increase on revenues and expenditure sides just to do a projection on where we would be if we were to give a 3% increase across the board for all expenditures and with all of our revenues. Next year, we will have a $4.3 million hit to our fund balance, which would leave us at $143 million. However, in the subsequent years in 28 and 29 and 30, we would recover and would start replacing those funds in our fund balance. And as I stated earlier, when the board approves the budget, they have to approve all funds. So general operating fund budget that we're asking to approve is $741 million. Special revenue is 31,141,000. Capital projects funds is 647,351,351,000. Debt services at 35,947,000. And enterprise fund is 49,219,000. Our total budget would be $1,504,660,273. And as you can see, the general fund is 49% of that amount, with capital projects at 43%. As I stated earlier, this is the first public hearing that we're having today. Our second public hearing will be held on Tuesday, May 27th at 5:30 p.m. here in this boardroom, with the final adoption and adopting the tentative millage rate that same evening on Tuesday, May 27th at 6 p.m. during the board work session. Millage rate public hearings, if required, will be held in late July or August, with the final millage rate adoption in August. Mr. Chair, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bivens. We will now get ready for the public participation.
Mr.
Prior
Chairman,
to,
before
I'm
you go
sorry.
to that, can I ask?
you have a question?
Can you go back to your slide, which would be on page 11 of this?
Too far. Yes,
It
ma'am.
would be the one that says fiscal year 2026 proposed budget all funds.
Which one? At the end?
I think it would be 22.
22, okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, so over where you said to the far right, you said consolidated funds. You see that? To the
Yes,
far
ma'am.
right?
Yes.
Okay, now you mentioned at the bottom, you said, where are the funds for the Performing Arts Center, all of that? Where is this on this paper?
So that it says it's expenditures on revenue side. This is the
Because
expenditure.
I thought you said it's the very last.
The enterprise operations, 3,375,274, but that would include the Performing Arts Center and the print services shop and Campus Kids. That would all be included in there.
Okay, so that would be the enterprise fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because when you said it before, I was looking all the way to the bottom and saw this 1 billion, which should be
Okay,
our.
so that's the total for all funds.
Right, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
that wasn't what I heard.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make certain.
Yes, ma'am.
That, because I'm like, if we making this kind of money
No.
in the pack, then
We would be good if we did that.
Yeah, it should be a raise on this,
Yes,
on
ma'am.
here.
Okay.
Ms. Bivens, is the nutrition included in enterprising also?
It is. There, it's on that line, it says school food and nutrition services, the $44
Okay.
million.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, one last question before you start. So this is tentative, and you had given the board, I think at one time we saw 3 scenarios. So this is supposedly tentative. So are we going to look at anything else? I mean, I don't recall you saying anything in this budget about what we're giving employees. My ears might be.
Oh,
stopped up.
I'm sorry, on page, and I did miss that. On page, and it's because it ran together, there should be another bullet, I need to fix that. On page 11, there's a $1,500 one-time payment to all full-time employees. That's, all full-time employees are defined as employees that work 32 or more hours a week.
All right, because
And that costs, I believe, is about 12, what was it, 11? 9, I'm sorry, $9.9 million to do that.
okay, because
Okay.
I was hoping it would be a little something else, but I guess we'll be able to discuss that
Okay,
before we pass
yes, ma'am.
the
yes.
budget. Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read the public participation in board meetings. The Clayton County Board of Education welcomes public participation and will hear any interested individual pursuant to the guidelines outlined in policy BCBI. Members of the public will not be allowed to discuss individual personnel issues or confidential student matters. Speakers must identify themselves and topics before speaking. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak, and time may not be yielded from one speaker to another. Board members will not respond to comments from speakers. The chairman may respond as appropriate. Issues requiring possible action by the board may be added to future agendas. Issues that may need to be addressed by the administration will be duly noted. Abusive language and/or personal attacks will not be permitted. My first speaker for tonight, for this morning, is Mayika Smut. Smoot. Good
Good, what are we, morning, afternoon?
morning.
Good morning. I'm Micah Smoot. I am the president of the Clayton County Education Association. Just want to bring greetings to superintendent, chair, all of the board. I am here and not in school because you all are holding a public hearing at 11 o'clock where all staff are in school. I think that I am the only person here because I took professional leave today. And what's unfortunate is that I sent an email to the entire board about this very thing. And I am aware that there is a meeting on the 27th at 5:30 before the board meeting where we are scheduled to adopt and pass the board. So tell me, if that's when public and your educators and your staff have the opportunity to discuss and give comment on the board, when would that actually be considered? When would those things actually be considered? I would actually implore this board to consider another budget hearing date so that people can come. But with that being said, I did not hear anything about a step or a cost of living increase for employees. I know that at the previous work session or board meeting when the budget was brought forth, there was talk about not being able to sustain it over time. And yet we are proposing the student employment division service, student employment services division. Part of my question is why can't that be housed under CTAE? But my other thing is that we are willing to not know how we are going to fund this in the future and yet put this in our budget. And yet we're not willing to do that with our employees. We are willing to say that, okay, Delta's giving us $400,000 a year for what, the next 5 years, and we'll have to figure it out. And we are going to still have to fund some of that out of the general funds. I wholeheartedly believe that we find money for what we want to find money for. And if our employees are not of value, you're going to continue to see our employees leave. If we are trying to retain and attract highly qualified, highly skilled teachers, then we need to make sure that we're doing that and that is our purpose and that's what we're doing. I've had several people to call me and say, Smoot, I just can't do it anymore. I'm retiring. We are losing our veteran teachers. We are losing our boots on the ground. Yes, we can hire people and we have to train them up. Talk to your principals. We're really having to train people up. And our students don't deserve that. We deserve the best. My student is a student in Clayton County Public Schools. She deserves highly qualified teachers. She deserves for her teachers not to have to look or even entertain other offers from other districts. It should be here. There are also things, Dr. Smith, love you a lot. I guess that in the contract, it has to have that there is a raise in his contract. There has to be a percentage because I'm seeing 12,000 this year and I see 12,000 last year. Maybe you should forego that and give that back. Maybe put it into a scholarship fund. But that would be a good gesture to your employees. I think that we need to find the money. We have the money when we want the money.
I received several emails about different positions. The SST position, for one. You can call it SST, you can call it MTSS. It doesn't really matter what you call it. When you talk to your principals, when you talk to your employees in the schools about what we need, there are certain positions that we need because it's really hard to do those jobs when you have another one. When you need a full-time person who can help lead that dyslexia charge, that can help do that tier one, tier two, tier three interventions that our students need. And year after year after year, we're told that we don't have the money for those positions. We need to start looking at what our schools need, what is going to benefit our students, and let that be our focus and what drives what we do. Do I feel like a student employment is great and valuable? Yes. Do I feel like it can be served under a different department? Absolutely. So then how can, and then reallocate those funds? I think that when we start looking at this budget, and I'm going to dig into it a little more deep, as board members, it is also your job to not just accept what is being brought before you and let's just go along with it. Dig into these numbers. Ask yourself why last budget year, graduation coaches went from a little over 300,000 to over 5 million. This year is zeroed out. Well, where's those 5 million? I questioned last year, why did we go from 300,000 plus to 5 million plus? And my problem when I come before this body is that we don't get any answers. We can ask as many questions as we want, but there's no answers. And what I hope this board is doing is talking with yourselves and amongst yourselves and to these departments and getting these answers. Because we, Clayton County, the community, your employers, your students deserve these answers. We're all trying to follow the money. We all know that it's hard times. I would have appreciated if you all would have come up here and said, you know what? We're not sure what's happening with our federal funds. We're not sure what tomorrow's going to look like. We need for our employees to do X, Y, Z. This is what we can do for you all, but help people understand the why. And then when we show you, when we have a question about, well, why are we doing this? Be willing to stand before us and answer those questions. I'll be speaking before you all at the board meeting this afternoon, and I don't want to, but I have to. It's too important. And it's not just about money. You all need to understand that we're losing our educators. We're losing our people who truly care about students and who truly know the job. I didn't see anything in here this year about attendance incentive. I laugh about the incentive.
One second, and I'm going to let you continue.
Okay.
Just so everyone knows, she's way over her time, but I'm going to let her keep going over her time. She's the only speaker here today, and I have a lot to say and unpack about what you said. So go on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would be willing. I really want to know how did the incentive go this year? I know in my building, our teachers came to school. We had a lot of people who got that attendance incentive. And maybe it was a little too successful, which is why I didn't make it back into the budget. Not that I agree wholeheartedly with incentivizing things, because I personally didn't get an attendance incentive. I have an 8-year-old. But that, in my building at least, that was a successful program to get people to work. So that maybe that is something that you all could still consider again this year also. But I do believe wholeheartedly that we need to find the money. There are several cost centers in the budget that have decreased. Principals, assistant principals, school psychologists. I could go on and on when you go down to cost centers. My real question is, why have those line items decreased? And so my question is it that we've had veteran people to move out and we're hiring people who we may be paying less? Did we look at vacancies and show that as a cost savings? If we could get those type of answers, we would better understand and know what's going on with the budget. Also, in our budget that we are allowed to put forward, we can't just say other. Like other is defined. When you're dealing with money, define the other services, other costs, like other expenses. Other as a cost center should be defined as what other is. Um, I thank you all because it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job to serve as on a board. I serve on many. I get it. Let's all do our due diligence. Let's do what we need to do to make Clayton County the great place that it is and continue to retain and attract great employees and continue to attract parents who want to bring their students to our schools. So they don't want to take this 6,500 and go somewhere else with their monies. I thank you all, and I'll see you all this evening.
Good deal. Thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to unpack a lot of the things that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I'm finished, if there's anybody else that wants to speak to you, this is uncommon to run it this way, but you're the only person here. I have a lot to say, and I'm sure it's going to spark other individuals with questions. The first thing I want to address is I was approached by one of the administrators that came to me and I asked this person, what more can I do about the budget process for this year? And this is what he said to me, or she said to me. They said, get in touch with your community, find out, let them be heard, let them understand why we're making the decisions that we're making. I then went back to my board liaison, and this is something that I'm speaking ahead because I have to talk to the superintendent about this next step, and I have not done that yet. So I guess he's going to hear it just like you. Then we'll have a discussion and see if we can logistically pull this off. Although I don't need his authority to talk to my constituents, right? They said, go back and talk to your constituents, talk to your community. Let's hear what they got to say. We all know that that's what will make us successful. If I hear what you're saying, hear it, and I give you a reasonable explanation for why we're making the decisions that we're making, you probably would be in your class right now and didn't need to be here. So with that being said, I've gave my board liaison a task with the lady that's sitting down there to actually put together webinars that will be launched this week, starting this week, that will discuss some of the answers from the board members' perspective, only the board members' perspective, which sounds very similar to your concerns. And those answers will hopefully be addressed in this webinar by that individual that's going to be manning it with other board members. So you're going to hear our perspective. You're going to see you guys elected us in order to represent you.
Right.
So you're going to hear our perspective of how we're hearing the budget and our interpretation of what we heard with the budget and how the staff is working out those recommendations for the budget. My hope is that I will logistically be able to pull this off starting this Wednesday. With that webinar, it should open up the doors for teachers. I've gotten plenty of emails from teachers saying they're in class testing right now. No way in the world do I want to interrupt a teacher that's testing for this issue that I should be taking care of. So with the webinar, what we're hoping is that a lot of the answers to the questions that you have can be addressed from a school board member's perspective. And when people walk away from that webinar, what we're hoping is that they go, these guys have a tough decision to make. They could have did this, they could have did that, but this is their rationale for why they did this. And that's what I'm hoping that will happen after the lady down there, Ms. Joy Tellis Cooper. She's going to host that with other board members on that panel. So you guys are going to be able to access any questions that you want, and you're going to see it from the same lens that you see it from. And the superintendent and his staff is going to be required to give us those answers the best way that they can, and we want to communicate that to you guys. So that's the first step that we want to make. Secondly, you're 100% right. I mean, every dollar that it goes through this organization, $1.5 billion. I want to see every single one of those dollars enhancing the lives of our children. And who's best to tell us how to do that than a school, a teacher, and a principal? There's nobody
Mhm.
that I can see that could give us better answers than that. So what I guess I'm asking you is be patient with me just this week. And a lot of the things that you've asked, I want to see it in our webinar. And I then want you to personally call me and tell me whether I did good or whether I did bad
Okay.
based off of that webinar. And I think that's going to give people a better opportunity to actually chime in than the public hearing meetings. Now you have to remember the public hearing meetings, by law, we have to set them up this way. We have a short period of time maybe we could have did better, logistically with the days, but I'm not going to worry about that this year. What I'm going to do this year is make sure that you get your information. Is that cool?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
I appreciate
Anybody
that.
else have any questions? Superintendent want to address anything? Ms. Corey?
Yes, I'll address some things. First of all, we're going to talk about this hearing. There's an 11 o'clock hearing because there are other people that weigh in on the budget. That would be the general public.
Mhm.
So you didn't have to come at this time. You could have come at another time. And as I said to you before, over the years, I have scheduled numerous meetings for you. If you will recall last year, no one signed up to speak. I had to make you all come and speak because when the budget was presented, a lot of people made little side eye. You had all these comments, blah blah blah, but nobody wanted to speak. So if I apologize that you had to take a professional day, but I can recall when I was a teacher, I took professional days to do the same thing. And as the president of the
Oh,
CCDA,
absolutely.
it shouldn't have been a problem. One of the things I would suggest is that I thought that you were a part of the budget committee. Are you
No,
not a part of it? I would suggest that you be included as a part of the budget committee. But as far as Mr. Straker is mentioning with this webinar, one thing that seems to be missing here is communication between the board members. Because if we're going to do a webinar, it would be nice if somebody on the board would tell us that this was the plan, because this is also Teacher Appreciation Week. Our schedules are pretty tight. Same thing with the staff. Everybody, we're testing, we're doing all of that. And I'm not sure, Miss, when is the actual, when are we passing the budget?
the 27th.
Okay, because I know that we do, a webinar would be good, to get everybody's opinion, but it would be nice if we had some communication on the board to say that we're going to do this. The other problem is with the board members. We are sitting, I'm unhappy about the fact that there's not a raise. I think that somewhere we did decide that we were considering a raise. I don't agree with the attendance incentive because we've already spent $5 million on that, and we don't know how much we're going to spend this semester, and that will put us over the amount of money that we were allotted. We could have probably used that money last year for a step.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like we should sit on this money in our fund balance. I think if we want to just sit and brag about all this money we have in the fund balance and let our teachers leave, that doesn't make any sense. So
Agree.
the board members are going to need to look at themselves and decide, what do we need to do as far as trying to help keep our teachers? Because I believe right now our numbers are rising. The teachers have the opportunity until June to decide whether they're staying or not. And as you said, we do a lot of training. And I go to other school districts. They're always thanking me for those good trained teachers that we send to the other school districts. And we need to stop training, and we need to say, hey, we can make it by giving up some of the fund balance and giving our employees at least a step increase or some type of raise. That's my position.
I
So,
appreciate that.
That's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Tellis Cooper?
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for coming so we could actually hear your voice and hear where you stand. And like Chairman Straker was saying, we have received a lot of calls and concerns from teachers about a numerous amount of things. One is this budget, one is the employment services. And what I do want to say is I don't want to prematurely, I do want to talk to my board members before I say a whole lot, but I want you to know from my perspective that I am one that digs down into the budget. I ask the questions. I want to know what's going on. I do hear the concerns. I am reviewing everything. I'm not going to make a decision that is haphazard. I will definitely be looking. I ask the questions about the other lines. I want to know. I want to know a drill down. I want to know how it's going to affect us. I want to know how it comes back to our students and how it will help and achieve our students. I've asked the same question about CTAE as far as the employment service or withholding until we see what's going on in Washington, because we don't know. We're dealing with a lot of unknowns at this point. But what I do want you, the teachers, the community, even the schools, because like Chairman Straker said, who would know better what is needed than the schools within the communities, because you see it on a day-to-day and you're working on it on a day-to-day. But just know me as a individual, I am one of 9, and I will be working with my board members even before we do the webinar to see what we even want to touch on and talk about. And of course, we may or may not, because I haven't talked to them, have certain viewpoints about different things. But do know that I am looking into it. I am looking deeply into it. I am very concerned is not the word I want to use, but I am very aware of what the teachers and the staff, the principals, the community is looking at. And I will be working hard to make sure that we pass a budget that will fit and has everyone in mind and not one specific group or individual. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
Ms. Moore, before you leave, are you in a hurry to get back?
No.
All right. I would like to have a conversation with you before,
Okay.
once this is over.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Thank you.
Chairman Straker, let me make this last point. I think that since the board members are deciding that they're having a webinar, I don't think that I think that we are actually overstepping in requiring our staff to be present.
Our staff, the staff is not going to be present at that.
Because our staff they have a job to do. They presented. We've met in small groups, and if we did a webinar, and it depends on
this webinar will be school board based only. So we just want to hear from you, have a conversation with you, with school board members. The only thing that I have reached out to the finance department for is a overview of the finances so we know what we're talking about when we're in that webinar. But you're not going to see any of the staff at the webinar.
Well, sir, if we're going to have a webinar, if it's on, are we having, when you say we're having a webinar, are we going to be in a public place or we're doing it over technology?
Over technology.
Okay, because I was going to say if we have a forum, it needs to be
right.
It needs to be posted. But even then, if it's over technology,
we'll work out the logistics, Ms. Corey. I have to talk to you. I said, what's funny? She's asking you that question. She doesn't even know what I'm talking about, and she's going to be the host. So all of my board members are oblivious to what's getting ready to happen. I just wanted to get everything in place first before I got them involved. So, Ms. Corey, you're not the only one that
I'm trying to keep us legal. I'm not going to violate any rules. So please communicate.
All right. Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you in a few.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the staff? No? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.